Welcome to week 29. I'll take you on a few new runs of mine. It's hard to think of sentences that all rhyme. Look at my forehead, that's a lot of shine. Afterwards I'm gonna pour myself some wine. But stick around later, I've got something new. A new first impressions to share with you. All about Mizuno's brand new shoes. The Wave Sayonara 4 come in a really bright orange. You could see them coming all the way down Lakeshore and in Cord. So the time has come for something that I know you guys really enjoy. I can tell by the view counts of the videos that I post. I have a first impression for you of a new shoe. This is the Mizuno Wave Sayonara 4. Now, there seems to be a lot of buzz on the interwebs about this shoe, largely because of the Sayonara 3 that came out about a year ago. I'm assuming it was about a year ago. That would make sense. People seem to be huge fans of the Mizuno Wave Sayonara 2, and the original Sayonara, and then when it came to the 3, they felt there were a lot of kind of revamps and changes in the design and fit and structure of the shoe, which they weren't big fans of, and so they've been eagerly awaiting the 4. I've heard some things about how they're really hoping that the shoe's an overhaul. Some people say just looking from the design of it, it doesn't seem like it's going to be a big departure from the 3. And when deciding how to address this in reviewing the shoe, or at least giving you first impressions of the shoe, I was like, well, maybe I should. I haven't personally run in any of the other Wave Sayonaras from Mizuno, so disclaimer there. But I thought, well, maybe I should look and see why people didn't like the Sayonara 3 and then what people love so much about the 2 in comparison to the 3. And kind of the more and more I went into that rabbit hole, I thought, no, I'm not going to do that. Because I don't have personal experience with that fit or feel in running with that shoe. But mostly because this is a new shoe. This has its own features that Mizuno's been working on in comparison to the previous model of the shoe, and I think that this shoe should be examined and reviewed for what this shoe is, not specifically in regards to what its predecessor was. So these are my first impressions of the Mizuno Wave Sayonara 4. So the Sayonara 4 was released on June 5th, just a couple days ago. I was lucky to get the shoe about 2 weeks, 3 weeks maybe in advance of that, and got to log in a good 52 miles on it. I checked my Strava, which has a really nice feature that you can kind of log which gear you're doing your runs in and keep track of it. So I've got a 52.3, I think it is exactly in now, on these Sayonara 4s. This color, Mizuno calls a clownfish. I like it, I like the orange. I'm not too particular in general with my running shoe aesthetics because I think, as most of you would probably agree, kind of the way it looks, kind of the colors of it is the last thing that I'm going to consider when I'm looking at what makes a running shoe great. So this is the clownfish, this orange. I realize that against this, it's not the easiest to tell, so there, a little bit less of a clashing backdrop. It also comes in a primarily blue and a primarily kind of silver color for those of you who like more neutral colored shoes. Mizuno calls this their classic 3D Mizuno fit with a U4 IC midsole. Can you see me looking at my cheat sheet right below you? U4 IC midsole that they tout as soft yet responsive. This shoe has a 10mm offset, which if you've been watching any of my previous videos, I had been running in the Brooks Pure Flow 5, and really liked that shoe, but that was about a 4mm offset, which for me was a lot lower than anything I'd run in before. This is a 10, which I think is probably a little bit higher than most of my running shoes, which tend to hover right around 8. But I liked it. It also has new blown rubber. I think it's interesting that Mizuno seems pretty hyper aware of the fact that their Sayonara 3s were not a huge hit. There were a couple features listed on their website that they specifically say is new. So the new blown rubber in the forefoot they added for durability and stress. We can see that same high durability rubber here in the heel. Now, if you look at this kind of bright green plastic plate, you'll see that it runs through the shoe. That's Mizuno's Wave technology. It's an elastic thermal piece of plastic shaped into a wave. They actually have 3 different kinds of waves for a more springy ride or increased stability in certain shoes, which another one of the first impressions I do in the upcoming weeks will talk about that specific wave. The point of this one is to disperse the force evenly throughout the midsole once you land, in hopes that whatever impact that you're having on the ground isn't going to be so severe on your joints and your muscles. So this specific wave is called the parallel wave, and it's really designed for cushion and energy dispersion. Again, just allowing you to kind of transfer that focal point of impact throughout a greater portion of the shoe. The outsole part of rubber into the heel. I don't really know what part of rubber is, but I'm going to look it up and I'm going to and majority of the shoe kind of has this air mesh that is supposed to improve breathability and comfort while running in the shoe. There's a little bit of a sort of plastic guard against the front, which seems mostly aesthetic to me, but I went on a run in the shoe yesterday. You can probably see a little bit of that debris yet. And it was kind of muddy outside, and I have to say that whereas some other shoes that I've gone running in, I experienced really quick saturation through the shoe, especially if it was this mesh material, to the sock, leading to a less than comfortable fit for the remainder of the run. This little guard seemed to do a pretty good job at getting me through those higher grass areas where there was a good amount of rain and mud. One thing I saw when researching this shoe that I hadn't actually thought of on my own, so I can't take credit for it, is this Mizuno logo you see here on both the outside and inside of the shoe. I wouldn't have really thought more of that than just, oh, look at that giant branding that they're doing. But apparently it's there to kind of hold your foot more in place, and if you see where that kind of draws together is right at the more narrow part of your foot. So just that added little bit of, I don't want to call it stability, but don't get worried for those of you who have wider feet, but hug, just to make sure you have a little bit more of a customized feel to that fit. Something else that I read, which was super exciting for me, I really like a lot of Lululemon's clothes, and I know other manufacturers have it too, but I'm most familiar with it in the Lululemon product line, is kind of that, I think they call it silver light or silverescent or whatever. They sew into some of their shirts and shorts that have antimicrobial functions of not allowing it to kind of build up smell over time. So you can wear it, you know, once, twice, 3 times, don't get crazy, wash your clothes, but you can wear it a few times without it getting that kind of dank stank to it. And this sock liner actually has an ortholite antimicrobial property to it as well. And so, I gotta say, I mean, look, my feet aren't smelly anyway. It's one of my many blessings in life, but it's after 52 miles, it still smells like a pretty much new shoe. So that's inspiring, if nothing else. Dynamotion Fit has a stretched forefoot material to allow you a little bit of extra space. Again, I have feet that are on the more narrow side. I felt like this, I was a little tentative of running in the shoe when I first put it on. It did feel a little more spacious here to me. Now, Brandon gets on me about that all the time. Well, you need to have space for your feet, they spread, blah, blah, blah. I know we do. And I'm gonna say that running in these shoes, I never felt like there was an excess of space at all. In the New Balance, for me, that I first looked at a while ago, those for me were a little bit extra wide. I think if you've got neutral, average feet, or even on the more narrower side or the wider, if you're hovering around neutral, this is going to be a good forefoot for you when you're running. The collar construction's designed to prevent collapsing when you strike. There's definitely a harder spine to it, but something else I like is it doesn't travel all the way up. And I think especially for you heel runners, what that's going to translate into is that if you strike more posteriorly on your foot, you're not going to be feeling that kind of hard plastic go into your heel or your Achilles at all. There's a nice amount of cushioning here before that hard spine really kicks in. Okay, so that's all about the Mizuno Wave Sayonara 4. Now here's what I thought about it. I thought for this shoe, standing alone on its own, again, not comparing it to any of the other Mizuno shoes, I really liked it. It definitely is a more substantial shoe than I'm used to running in. The New Balance that I ran in at the beginning of the year and the Brooks both had a significantly lighter feel to me. You can see that this heel is substantial, and part of that is this plastic plate, which is just going to add some heft to the shoe. I was a little worried about that kind of tiring my legs out on the run. The shoe's designed for tempo and some quicker paces, some race paces. But heading out in the shoe, I didn't mind it. I did feel that as a midsole striker, it was maybe a little bit more shoe than I need, but it was never too much shoe for the type of running that I do. If you're a heel striker, or you're even airing a little bit, again, more posteriorly with where you hit, when you strike. I think you're gonna really love this shoe. I think that Wave technology did a good job of kind of evening out that load throughout the entire sole, resulting in a little bit more comfortable ride. 10 millimeters is a higher drop. If you're coming from a naturalistic shoe, that might take you a little while. I think, especially for me, I had so many issues with going to the Brooks 4 millimeter drop, causing a sort of Achilles tendonitis and just a lot of stiffness and kind of tension in my calves. That coming to these, I trained so much for that coming to these, I felt almost like I was running in a little bit of a heel, but I had no tendonitis, I had no stiffness, no pain. It was really kind of phenomenal. I was going off on these long runs right away. I ended up actually forgetting to use my compression socks and elevating and ricing and all of that stuff afterwards, and had no issues with it at all. So that was inspiring for me, to say the least. And something else just to kind of add to these shoes is that I had my personal longest run ever in these a few days ago. I did a 12-mile run. I was going out on a run that was supposed to be 8 minutes, kind of zone 2, low zone 3, 2 minutes higher zone 4. And I hit about 1 hour and 10 minutes and I just felt so good. And it was a beautiful day, no wind, sunny, kind of late morning, so I decided to keep going. And I went 12 miles in these, and my feet and ankles and knees and head, shoulders, and toes and all the rest of it felt really surprisingly good at the end of it. Consequently, the next day I also had no stiffness, a little bit of calf tightness yesterday when I did a recovery run, but other than that I felt great. I think these shoes are perfect for tempo training. For speed training for me, again, unless you really are a heavy heel hitter, this might be a little bit more shoe than I would want to do on things like sprints. Going around corners, because I did feel that nice fit here, and maybe that's a result of this Mizuno logo. I thought there was some good responsiveness. I never felt like the foot kind of got away from the shoe, taking those corners a little more tightly. I talked about this before, but these have those semi-elastic laces, which I am a huge fan of. I think especially for those of us who are alternating between slower recovery runs or doing intervals where you want to have both tempo, a little bit more comfort, and speed and responsiveness, that these elastic laces are fantastic in giving you that more relaxed feel without sacrificing fit and kind of responsiveness when you're taking those turns and asking a little bit more from your shoe. So those are my first impressions of the Mizuno Wave Sayonara 4. Stay tuned, because we're going to be looking at the Wave Catalyst coming up in the next week or two, and also you're going to be seeing a full-out review of this shoe on Gearist.com, so check back for that. I really want to take you guys on a run with me right now, and there are scattered thunderstorms around, which warrants taking my iPhone, but it's maybe it doesn't look like that to you. It's pretty dark outside, and I don't want to get my phone soaking wet since my running armband is not waterproof. But I'll check in with you after. Well, it was super humid, but the rain supplied a little bit of coolness, which made it a lot nicer for a run for me. I averaged 167 beats per minute, doing a negative split, primarily zone 2 out, zone 3 back, with about a 4-minute push on the way back, in a low zone 5, primarily a high zone 4. But having that average heart rate of 167 beats per minute means I'm back in the appropriate zone, and I'm very excited for that, especially after my killer run a couple days ago. So it's about 6:15 a.m. on Sunday morning, and you might ask yourself why I'm up so early running. Unlike many of you, I'm not a super early guy getting up and going for a run, but I have a good friend in town who I went to a wedding with yesterday morning, and I have my church gig today, and then we've got a full day planned, so I've got to kind of fit it in wherever I can. That means I have about 40 minutes this morning, 45 minutes to go for a run. I probably need some oil. So Brandon originally gave me a Tabata workout to do. I asked him for something that wouldn't give me an asthma attack before my church gig. So instead what we're gonna do is just a step-up run of 40 to 45 minutes, about 10 minutes in zone 2, zone 3, zone 4, and about a 10-minute cool down. And it's beautiful weather outside, so that's a little bit extra incentive to go running before the noon hour. Let's go. So the Lakeshore Drive is closed for a bike race today. Sorry for the motion sickness. So I'm doing a 45-minute run, 15 minutes in zone 2, because it's actually taken a good amount of time for me to get my heart rate into zone 2 this morning, which you'll see from the past few runs is a bit of an anomaly for this week, so I'm very grateful for that. Definitely ran about 10 minutes, with it in the high 140s, low 150s, so it seems like it's back on track, and that's exciting. On the other hand, I feel like for my heart rate being as low as it's been, I've been working pretty hard. So all in all, it's been a really good run. And an additional perk is that this is what I get to see this morning running. Very few people, nice cool temperatures, beautiful scenery, and added bonus, we're stopping right where I can get some water. I just finished a 45-minute runabout and came in at 5.01 miles. I like to get in that extra 100th of a mile because Strava, I don't know what Strava's problem is. No, I really like Strava. I'm not really criticizing it, but I will say that it is always 1/100th of a point off from whatever my Polar Flow app and my watch say, which is just really irritating when you run in like a perfect 7 miles or a perfect 10 miles, and then you sign on to your Polar app, your Polar Flow app, which I really love, and it tells me I ran a perfect 10 miles, and then you sign into Strava and it's like 9.99 miles. Just really infuriates me. So I try to just make sure I break whatever that is to make sure I get the full, I get full credit. So that was a really good run. I did a zone 2 for 15 minutes, 3 for 10, 4 for 10. Interestingly, my heart rate stayed really low in zone 2. Zone 3, it was pretty good the whole time. And then kind of when I hit that zone 4 threshold, it like spiked a little bit, almost into a low zone 5 at moments. So I had to bring it down a little bit. It wasn't not even low zone 5, it was more just that it quickly spiked up several beats per minute, and I found a little bit of difficulty bringing it down. So that was just something to note and a little bit of interest. But all in all, yeah, good run. I feel like I'm finally getting back. I have to say, of all the shoes that I've tried on so far, the Brooks, the Saucony, the Mizuno, straight out of the box, feel the nicest on my foot. So that I'm sure translates to a little bit better run. But something else that I've noticed as far as running is that, so we talk a lot in speech pathology about kind of like cognitive load and how when you're thinking harder about your speech, like I am right now, you tend to have more disfluencies or interjections like or you know, moments to think. I have them too. Brandon just does a nice job of cutting them out for me a lot of the times. So thanks, Brandon. But we're trying on different shoes, especially for me, the heel drop, and I'll talk about this a little more. But I think with my feet and legs and muscles and skeletal system and brain, kind of the way I hit my gait and the injuries I've had and the small changes that I've made for that, I think having these new shoes sometimes, until you really get used to them and really adjust to them, your body has a heavier cognitive load, if you will. Your body has to kind of muscularly think more about what you want to do with it to get the most efficiency out of your run. And so that's something I've been noting, changing running shoes like this, which I've never really done before. So yeah, so first impressions are first impressions. They are not comprehensive. I am available for professional guitar gigs, so Sarah Bareilles, please